all to this subject overview in Scrutiny Committee 1, which, due to health and safety reasons currently being followed in Bridgend County Council, will be held virtually with everyone accessing the meeting from remote locations. The meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed subsequently. Please can everyone ensure that mobile phones are switched off or to silent mode. Members will have received an electronic copy of the agenda, and I will ask the officers to present a summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their cameras on at that point. But I would ask that, with the exception of myself as chairperson, at all other times you keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimise any background noise and interference. If any members and officers wish to raise a point or question, they should press the raise hands icon at the top right-hand side of the Microsoft Teams window, and I will come to you in the order I receive requests. Please lower your hand once you have finished speaking. The instant messaging chat button has been disabled for this meeting. Please do not use your microphone until I invite you to do so. I will ask officers to introduce themselves when I invite them to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use. I will ask officers to introduce themselves. I've already said that. I will now proceed to the agenda. Okay, Meryl, can I receive apologies for absence, please? Item number 1 on the agenda.
Thank you, Chair.
So we've got Councillor Tim Thomas has raised his hand, I understand.
Thanks, Chair. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave the meeting about 11 o'clock, but I may be to return very quickly afterwards, about 15:15.
Thank you for that, Tim. Okay, we're going back to the scrutiny officer, Jessica.
Thank you, Chair. I've received apologies for absence from Councillor Joanna Llewellyn-Hopkins.
Thank you, and we'll record Councillor Ellie Richards' apologies as well, if I may. Are there any other apologies?
No, Chair.
Okay, we'll move to item number 2 on the agenda, and that's declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members?
No hands.
So, hello. Hi,
Hello.
Chair. It's Councillor Evans here. I'd like to declare an interest, a personal interest, as I sit on a task force for 21st Century Schools in my capacity as a town councillor for Pencoed Town Council. Also, I'd like to declare an interest as I'm a community governor for both Croisty and Pencoed Comprehensive Schools.
Okay, and I assume you're declaring a personal interest in that.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Lehman-Stanley, please.
I need to declare an interest in the Public Service Board, as my employer also sits on that.
Okay, and that's a personal interest rather than prejudicial?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other declarations of interest, please?
Sorry, Chair, your mic is off, I think.
I knew I'd do that at some point, apologies. Move to item 3 on the agenda then, the approval of the minutes, and that's to receive the approval of the minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of January 2022. I believe Councillor Richard Collins and Councillor Martin Jones were present, so if they could possibly move and second those minutes, if they're a true and correct record, I would be
happy to move, Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, me too, Chair. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Therefore, we'll move to item number 4 on the agenda, and that's a nomination for the Corporate Parenting Champion. Meryl, would you like to provide any context, or Jessica, or Lucy, you're going to provide some context to this report?
I will, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So the committee is requested to nominate one member as its corporate parenting champion to represent the committee as an invitee at meetings of the Cabinet Committee Corporate Parenting. The role of the corporate parenting champion is to represent their overview and scrutiny committee in discussions regarding items relating to children in care and care leavers. The role of champion is also considers how all services within the remit of scrutiny affect children in care and care leavers, and encourage their own committee to keep their corporate parenting role in mind when participating in scrutiny. I'll hand back to you, Chair, for the nominations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucy. Can I have any nominations for the corporate parenting board, please? Are there any nominations? Councillor Tim Thomas.
Thanks, Chair. I'm not nominating. I'm just wondering if we could have an idea of the number of times this committee meets.
Quarterly, Chair.
Quarterly, right? Thank you.
Okay. Are there any? Is there anyone on the committee that is interested in being nominated for this particular board? Councillor Tim Thomas.
Go on then, I'll do it.
Okay. Can someone second Councillor Tim Thomas if no one else is interested in the board? Councillor Amanda Williams. Happy to second?
I'm happy to second him. I couldn't put my name forward because I'm already the representative from COSC.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Are there any other nominations? No, so if everyone's in accordance with that, we will nominate Councillor Tim Thomas from our committee. Okay. Moving then to item number 5 on the agenda, and that's the nomination to the Public Service Board Scrutiny Panel. We will go to Meryl now for this report.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to request the committee to nominate one member to sit on the Public Service Board Scrutiny Panel. From April 2016, the Wellbeing of Future Generations Wales Act introduced the statutory public service boards across each local authority area in Wales and the statutory scrutiny of the Public Service Board. The authority designated a PSB scrutiny panel which sits under the remit of the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Committee for this purpose. The panel will hold 2 meetings a year and make its recommendations to COSC for approval before reporting to the Public Service Board. Hand back to you to receive nominations, Chair.
Thank you very much, Meryl. Could I receive a nomination for the Public Service Board? If you could raise your hand if you'd like to be nominated, or if anyone's going to make a nomination. Councillor Richard Collins.
I am happy to put my name forward, Chair, for that committee.
Thank you very much, Councillor Collins. Would anyone be prepared to second Councillor Collins?
I said
I think that was Councillor Melanie Evans.
that's correct. I second that. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Are there any other nominations at all? Okay, therefore, if we're all in accordance with Councillor Collins being nominated for that position, we will move on. And congratulations, Councillor Collins, on your nomination. Okay, we'll move to item number 6 now on the Forward Work Programme. And Meryl, I think you're going to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. So the Council's constitution requires the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Committee to develop and implement a forward work programme, and also each Subject Overview and Scrutiny Committee to propose items for their forward work programmes, having regard to the Council's corporate priorities and risk management framework and Directorate business plans, and for the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Committee to have oversight and refer any cross-cutting topics to a committee or panel. Following the approval of the schedule of Scrutiny Committee meeting dates at the annual meeting of Council on the 19th of May, the scheduling of standing statutory reports to Corporate Scrutiny Committee has been achieved, and members who are on that committee will have seen that work programme last week. Forward work programmes should be manageable to maximise the effective use of the limited time and resources of scrutiny committees. It's not possible to include every topic proposed. Successful scrutiny is about looking at the right topic in the right way, and members need to be selective whilst also being able to demonstrate clear arguments for including or excluding topics. So within the report, there are criteria for topic selection to assist in maximising the effective use of time of scrutiny committees. The draft forward work programme for this committee has been prepared in conjunction with the chair, using a number of different sources, including the corporate risk assessment, director business plan, previous scrutiny work programme topic and minutes and outcomes. The topics proposed by the committee or members, discussions with the corporate director and discussions with the performance team about the timing of information. The draft forward work programme is attached as appendix to this report. Just to say that the subject overview and scrutiny committee draft forward work programmes will be reported to each meeting of corporate committee with any updates from each respective subject overview and scrutiny committee for coordination and oversight of the overall forward work programme. And I'll hand back to you, Chair, for members' questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mel. I'll go to Councillor Amanda Williams.
Thanks very much. Apologies, I've got my camera off because I've got poor Wi-Fi at the moment and I might freeze if I turn it on. But can you hear me okay?
Yes, no problem,
Yes.
Amanda. Yeah.
Great, thanks. I raised the first item about safeguarding and concerns with regards to pupils, particularly since COVID, because there have been an increase in safeguarding concerns raised within schools. So I've asked for that to come with with CAMS and social services to also be invited. I think it's really important we look at the well-being of children as a priority and ensuring that we've got the right support. We need to have CAMS because obviously they provide the mental health support, and I've been told that there is it's very difficult to get counselling for children. I think you can only get it from year 6 upwards. So there's a large group of children who aren't getting any counselling at all. And then for those who are able to get it, it's very, very difficult. And schools are having to choose between which child gets the counselling because it's so scarce. So it'd be interesting to have CAMS in there, but also I understand that the MASH team are also seeing increased referrals. So I'd like to know if they're actually coping with the increase in referrals that are coming through to them as well. So it'd be important to have them. I'd also like to see on the forward work programme, we talk about the new schools and all of the funding that's going to go into new schools. But we don't seem to be looking at the older schools. If you look at schools such as Bryn Teg, they've got old sash windows and beautiful buildings, but they're really, really old now and not really fit for purpose. So I think we need to be looking at those schools, because by the time we complete all the extensions on the new schools and the new builds, we're going to be quite some years away before we even look at any of these schools, and all of the children in every school deserve the same facilities. So I think we need to look at that. And I'd also like to look at the catchments and issues with regards to, if you look at Coity and Pencoed, for example, they're having to have extensions because of capacity issues, but they're not going to be in place until 2025. So if they're not in place until 2025, what are we doing in the interim to ensure that those children have a place in their local school? I know, for example, Coity, 20 odd children this year in nursery were declined a place, and they were in catchment children, with the closest living just 300 and odd metres from the school. So all of the other schools in the area are now full, and so children are being sent everywhere. So I think we need to look at that as well in the forward work programme. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Williams. Meryl and the scrutiny team, can we ensure that we pick that up with the corporate director, the English language catchment areas and the school modernisation programme, and see whether we can find an appropriate time within our forward work programme for the forthcoming council year to scrutinise those proposals which Councillor Williams has put forward. And I believe, Meryl, from our previous discussions, we have included invitations from representatives from the Social Services Directorate and from CAMS and MASH to ensure that they attend our first meeting regarding pupil wellbeing and safeguarding. That's correct, isn't it?
That hasn't been done yet, Chair, but we will follow that up after this meeting. Yes.
Great, thank you very much, Meryl. Councillor Tim Thomas, please.
Thanks, Chair. I very much support those proposals just put forward by Councillor Williams. In addition to that, I'd be very keen for the committee to look at the WESP, the Welsh in Education Strategic Plan. I just wondered if we could fit that onto the forward work programme. Just with regards to the point that Councillor Williams made about the quality of the older schools, perhaps this could tie into the work we're doing on climate change from an energy efficiency angle, and that would give an indication, I think, of the quality of the conditions of the schools as well. Whether that falls in this committee, I'm not so sure actually, but there's one angle we could look at. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, we can certainly look at how that fits in with the programme. Of course, we can discuss, I suppose, climate change and the impact which energy is having on our schools, maybe within our inflationary pressures discussion in December. However, with regards to your first point, Councillor Thomas, regarding WESP, I believe that's on the agenda for September, isn't it, Meryl?
October,
October,
the second meeting, Chair, isn't it?
Second meeting, so yes, yes, our first substantive meeting is in September, where we're discussing wellbeing and safeguarding, and our second substantive meeting has WESP on the agenda, so I hope that's useful for you. Councillor Martin Jones, please.
Yeah, good morning, Chair. Thank you. Can I just pick up on what Councillor Williams has said in relation to pupil wellbeing and pupil safeguarding, and suggest that we apply significant scrutiny focus on pupil wellbeing. I note in the forward work programme that is being proposed that this is being proposed to look at in September, which I welcome. It certainly ticks all the boxes in paragraph 4.6, which outlines a recommendation criteria. But Chair, what I would propose to this committee is that we look at pupil wellbeing from an attendance perspective, and we look at support to schools from education welfare officers. We also look at how the free school meal programme is being rolled out across all schools across the county borough. We also look at safeguarding, in particular what support schools are having for looked after children, and are there effective lines of communication between schools and social services support. We could very well invite school representatives to the scrutiny meeting, so we can take evidence and information from schools themselves. And I would advocate that we look at the basics. Let's make sure that the basics are in place to ensure that pupil wellbeing is being addressed right across the county borough. And I also propose, finally, Chair, that this is not a one-off. We don't look at it in September and then forget about it. We look at it in September, and then at a time span which others can advise us on, but we revisit this within a suitable time frame so that we can monitor progress, support, or where there are particular blocks in support in school. We may very well look at it in September and then perhaps revisit it in March or April that next year. But just to recap, Chair, I think pupil wellbeing is important. It's important to everybody. And I am picking up perhaps that we could improve a little, especially in support to our schools across the borough. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jones, and I would endorse fully what you say regarding the continuous monitoring of pupil wellbeing and safeguarding throughout the year, rather than looking at something in isolation. So you make some very valid points there, which we hopefully can incorporate, Meryl and the scrutiny team, in our forward work programme discussions. As has been noted previously, this is our forward work programme going forward. It's a forward work programme which is moulded by the committee. It can vary, it's not set in stone, so we'll be looking at it as a standing item going forward throughout our meetings. Meryl, I don't know, I can't remember whether you mentioned this in your introduction to this particular item. Did we refer to the December and January meetings, and they may reverse their order, mightn't they, dependent on the local government settlement? Have you already mentioned that? Apologies if you have.
I haven't, sorry, Chair, it's remiss of me. So on the work programme appended to this report, you'll see that in December we've got the draft medium-term financial strategy, and if, as in recent years, there is a delay with receiving the Welsh Government settlement, this may switch with the item for the January meeting, so that that can accommodate the later decision-making process on the draft budget by the Cabinet. And we'll keep a roving eye on that and update you as we get closer to that as well.
Yeah, and just to note as well, these are catch-all titles of substantive items on our agenda. We can always add different items. For example, inflationary pressures, as I previously mentioned, will encompass the cost of living crisis, the energy crisis, which Councillor Thomas referred to earlier on. The impact that might have on home to school transport, which is significantly over budget at present. So all of these catch-all items can extend to more sort of individual scrutiny of areas within the Directorate. Meryl, would you like to come in?
Just to echo that, Chair, and to say that for those members who are on the corporate committee, later this month, they'll be looking at the latest performance report and the latest revenue budget monitoring reports. And out of those reports, sometimes, continued red performance may indicate an area that subject overview scrutiny committees may want to look at in deeper focus. So it's very much as we go through each meeting, things will emerge. Yourself will meet with the director, things will emerge. So it's very much a living, breathing document. At every meeting, the committee will have the opportunity to refresh their work programme. So it is
exactly
to be owned by them.
Precisely, Meryl, and just to mention to members that there is an ambition from the Chief Executive and the Corporate Director for Education that this performance management is monitored by individual scrutiny committees. So, for example, the Directorate has a red, amber and green monitoring system for every single service it provides. And it would be sensible for that report to come to this committee on a quarterly basis to ensure that we scrutinise the Education Directorate in particular, because we have a focus on that. So that's their ambition, that we have more and more of a role in scrutinising the performance of the Directorate. I think Councillor Martin Jones would like to come in.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Are we to assume then that pupil wellbeing is going to be part of this Directorate dashboard?
Off the top of my head, I don't know whether pupil wellbeing is monitored as part of the dashboard. Perhaps scrutiny officers can confirm or deny. However, perhaps we can certainly suggest that if it isn't monitored, that it ought to be monitored as part of the performance management dashboard in the future. I know that all scrutiny chairs and cabinet and all of the corporate management board sit on this performance management board on a quarterly basis. But if it isn't on there, I think that your suggestion of it being on there is certainly a valid one. So I'm happy to take that back, and perhaps it can be recorded by scrutiny officers to make that as an action or a recommendation from the committee. Meryl.
Certainly, Chair. Just to add that the report that Corporate Performance Board look at and later comes to Corporate Committee is based on the performance against the corporate plan. Members will be aware, obviously, the corporate plan that's being monitored at the moment is from the last term of office, and that there will be a new corporate plan being developed well, imminently for this year, and that will come to the corporate committee in draft, and so there'll be an opportunity to feed into that. But of course, we will take it back to the director as well, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, and as part of the forward work programme, let's slot that in somewhere on a quarterly basis in the appropriate times, in the appropriate months, so that we can view the corporate management dashboard for the Education Directorate in more detail. I think there was definitely an ambition from the Chief Executive and the Corporate Director that we do that, so that should be slotted in somewhere. Okay. Does anyone else have anything more on this agenda item? Please raise your hand if you do. Therefore, subject to those recommendations and amendments which the scrutiny team would have captured, I'll be happy to accept the proposal in the forward work programme. I assume silence is in accordance with that. So therefore, we will move to item 7 on the agenda. That is urgent items. There are no urgent items of business in respect of which notice has been given in accordance with Part 4, Paragraph 4 of the Council Procedure Rules. So I will therefore close the meeting at 10 AM. Thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance, and have a good day.